looking at how to use SPSS to to do the estimation, to answer your research questions. So last Monday, the recording from last Monday you can get on the YouTube channel already. So last Monday I already shown you how to use the simple cross tabulation, pie chart, bar chart, to answer your research question number 1 on the demographic factor, demographic characteristics of your respondent. And then for research question number 2, I already shown you how to use this independent sample t-test, whereby first you create a new variable by combining all the questions under your Likert scale. I did not save the file from last Monday, so I'm just going to do this very quickly again. First you compute variable. I think on last Monday we created this variable called section B. Section B, whereby the formula is given as mean, and it will be the mean of all the items under the Likert scale of section B. So there are 5 questions under here, B1, B2, B3 until B5. So this is what we did last Monday. So we create one section, section B, and this variable is categorized as a scale variable because it averages. It takes the mean of the score for all questions under section B. So you can do for C and D or any other sections lah in your questionnaire. So last Monday, what we did was we looked at the independent sample t-test, looking at this component section B, and we group by gender, because for independent t-test, we only require, or it's only meant for 2 categories of variable. So whereby in your section A, I think the only question or the main question that is only categorized by 2 variable will be by gender, male and female. So this is what we did last Monday. So I'm not going to repeat this part again. You can refer to the video on last Monday. But the rest of your questions in section A, is suitable for research question number 3, for the use of ANOVA or F-test. So in your basic statistics class before, you learn how to apply the ANOVA, or F-test, whereby you are testing 3 or more groupings, at the same time. And in our case here, in our simple example, if you look at variables such as bangsa or race, the grouping is based on at least 3 lah, Malay, Chinese, Indian, and others. And you can also, for example, categorize by marital status, single, married, and bujang and duda. Taraf pendidikan or education level, there are 4 categories here. So as long as there are 3 or more categories, then you can use the F-test or the ANOVA. So basically, it is the same as the independent sample t-test. We use the question under Likert scale after you have combined them into one new variable. So for today, same as last Monday, I only going to use section B, meaning that the aggregate marks for component B, as a practice to use the independent t-test and also for ANOVA. So last Monday I already explained that, in your 3 research question, number 1, research question 1 is to look at the demographic characteristics. Research question number 2 is to investigate the mean of the factor, grouped by gender, meaning that the impact of gender, to determine if there is any difference on the factor that determine in this particular project is about the cost of living. okay, the cost of living among the UPSB staff. So that will be the main issue lah, the factors that affect the cost of living. So for research question number 2, it will be to determine if there is any difference in term of gender, okay, when it comes to factor that influence the cost of living. Okay, so there are 3 factors under the group under the Likert scale, okay, B, C, and D. Okay, B, let's say is about salary. C, I think is about the prices of goods and services. Okay, D is another factor. Okay, I can remember. So you can refer to the report and look at what are the 3 factors. Okay, so for research question number 2, we are only going to focus on the impact of to determine if there is any difference when it comes to gender. Okay, factor. So basically, why gender? It's not because I'm interested to look at gender differences, but it's because if you want to apply the t-test, okay, you only can do if you are focusing on 2 groups at a time, male, female. But of course, you can do for other sections. Sections, for example, even though, for example, for race, okay, there are more than 3 groupings here, Malay, Chinese, Indian, but you can still apply the t-test, okay, for this kind of category, but you need to pick up only 2 groups. For example, you are testing Malay and Chinese only, or Chinese and Indian only, okay. But but because this is just to practice to apply using t-test, okay, in your research project, okay. So the main goal is to see how you apply the test, okay, to answer your research questions. So hopefully when you reach semester 7, okay, when you do your research project, okay, you can apply again whatever that you have learned this semester, especially in the using SPSS to help you to answer your research questions. Okay. So the third research question is very similar to research question number 2, but this time around the focus is to determine the factors that affect the cost of living, okay, for this particular project, okay, but looking at based on other categories. For example, we want to look at the impact of if there is any difference on race, for example, okay, race, perbezaan dalam bangsa, okay, sama ada faktor bangsa tu the main factors, is there any different when it comes to race, or for example you want to look at if there is any different when it comes to education level. Okay, so basically in your ANOVA, okay, you can refer to the notes from your basic statistics or the thesis from the Google Drive or any journal. Okay, so usually ANOVA, it will be mu1 equals to mu2, okay, equals to mu3. If there are 4 groups, then it will be mu4. Okay, if there are only 3 groups, then you only stop at mu3. So what is 1, what is 2, what is 3, and 4? So 1, 2, 3, 4 is basically the groupings that you are looking at. For example, if you are focusing on race, for example, so 1 will be Malay, 2 will be Chinese, 3 will be Indian, 4 will be others. So the mean, and this mean is the mean of the factor lah. Okay. But if you are looking at, let's say, category B just now, okay, we created section B. So B is about the factor, salary factor, okay, faktor gaji, okay, salary factor, which influence the cost of living. So mu1, okay, so mu1 will be the mean of the salary factor for Malay. Okay, mu2 will be the mean of the salary factor for Chinese. Okay, mu3 will be the mean of the salary factor for Chinese, for Indian. Okay, and finally mu4 will be the mean of the salary factor for other races. Okay, so Malay, Chinese, Indian, and 4 will be others lah. Okay, so meaning that we are interested to see if there is any difference, okay, when it comes to the mean of the salary factor by race. Okay, so in other words, we want to see if there is factor or race factor. If race play any important factor or any important role lah, okay, when it comes to factors that affect the cost of living. Okay, when it comes to salary lah, okay, because we are focusing at one factor at a time. So how do you do this in SPSS? It's the same thing. Okay, compare means, but now you choose one way ANOVA. Okay, last Monday, okay, we use independent sample t-test for two groups, okay, male and female. Okay, but if your grouping is more than is 3 and above, okay, so again for dependent list we still use section B. Okay, so you can, if you got 3 sections, for example section C and section D, so you can do a separate ANOVA for every section lah. Okay, and this factor is how do you want to group this section by. Okay, so similar to gender, male and female for the t-test, but for ANOVA we require the factor to be 3 or more groupings. So just now we look at race lah, okay, faktor bangsa, okay, because in the race factor there will be Malay, Chinese, Indian and others. Okay, so we just go for click OK. Okay, and here you can see that, okay, in this one-way ANOVA, okay, because the sample size is very small, only 30 respondents, so it's kind of expected that the result to be not significant because of the small sample size. But what is important is how you interpret the findings. Okay, in your basic statistics before, when you learn ANOVA, okay, you learn how to read the F table, okay, table F, based on the calculated F value and also the degrees of freedom, the numerator and also the denominator. And you compare that value with alpha 5%, okay, usually we refer to 5% level of significance. Okay, but the fastest way is just to refer to the p value. Okay, if the p value is less than 5%, then you are going to reject the H0. If it is more than 5%, you cannot reject the H0. Okay, so here our p value is clearly 26%, okay, around 26%, which is bigger than 5%. Because it is bigger than 5%, meaning that we cannot reject H0. Okay, it must be smaller than 5% for you to reject the null hypothesis. So because you cannot reject H0, meaning you are supporting H0 lah. Supporting or cannot reject H0 means your H0 just now is what? Mu1 equals to mu1 equals to mu2, okay, equals to mu3, okay, and then so here what is so based on our n equals to mu4 lah, okay, because there are 4 groupings, Malay, Chinese, Indian and others. So because we cannot reject means that we support H0 lah. Okay, in a way our conclusion is there is no difference in the mean of the salary factor by race, okay, mengikut faktor bangsa. Okay, tidak ada perbezaan dalam mean faktor gaji, okay, mean faktor gaji sebagai penentu kos sara hidup, okay, bila di from based on ni lah, based on race ataupun faktor bangsa. Okay, so the mean score of salary for Malay is equal to the mean score of the salary factor, because section B just now is the faktor gaji. So depending on what topic that you are doing, so let's say you are doing on okay, intention to become entrepreneur, okay, niat menjadi usahawan. So they can be 3 or 4 factors, okay, the factors that will affect the intention to become entrepreneur, for example. So you can group the factors, okay, according to your Likert scale, section B, C, D, B, C, and D, for example, or B, C, D, E. Okay, and you can analyze each of the factor based on race, for example, education level, or based on CGPA pointer. If you group your CGPA based on first class honors pointer, second upper, second lower, and for example, or you can group based on between 2.0 to 2.5, 2.5 to 3.0, 3.0 to 3.5, okay, 3.5 to 4.0. So you can have 4 categories of CGPA in your respondent in your questionnaire from section A, and you can analyze based on the different categories of CGPA, for example. Or you can categorize based on course structure, whether you are economic student, finance banking student, agri-business student. So these are the things that can be analyzed based on ANOVA. As long as the groupings in your section A, okay, in your demographic section can be grouped according to at least 3 factors lah. Okay, so this is how you can do or how you can answer research question number 3. So again, just like last Monday, okay, you can run 3 or 4 ANOVA testing lah. Okay, more than 3, more than 4, depending on what you can do lah. For example, in this particular questionnaire, in this particular file, there are 3 factors, B, C, and D. Okay, so far I only did for section B, but for section B, you can analyze section B. Okay, just now what we did is we look at ANOVA for section B grouped by bangsa or race. You can also analyze the same component, the same section. Now let's say we want to group by education level. Okay, so it's the same thing. Okay, so you can, what is happening in this last graph here is that we want to analyze if there is any difference in the mean of the salary factor grouped by education level, and still we cannot reject the, based on this statistic value, we cannot reject the null hypothesis. Means that there is no difference in the mean. So what is so from here what you can see is that, okay, when you do ANOVA, okay, for your analysis, so now I'm doing section B, taraf pendidikan or education level, and you can also use, let's say, section C. Okay, once you create the mean for section C, you can still run section C also based on education level and see if the result, you can compare the result between section B and section C. In other words, you can see whether is there any ada tak perbezaan, okay, when it comes to section B for race versus section C group by section B based on taraf pendidikan or education level, and then you run another ANOVA test, but this time around you test for section C, okay, and also section D, and but using the same factor, education level, for example. The reason is that maybe some factors, let's say section B is not significant like this, okay, it's not significant because the value is 0.675, okay, which is 67%, is bigger than 5%, so meaning that we cannot reject the null hypothesis. So in other words, for the section B or the salary factor, is not, there is no difference in the mean, okay, in terms of education background. Okay, but if you run for section C, for example, okay, just for example, section C, let's say for another factor, okay, so B is salary, let's say C on the price of goods and services, harga barangan, and you run the test based on education level as well. And let's say you find the value to be less than 5%, meaning that you can reject the null hypothesis. So now you can get a 2 different story. When you run the F test, okay, or the ANOVA test for factor for section B or factor B, you cannot reject, okay, based on education level. But when you run the same test, okay, you run another ANOVA testing, but this time around for section C, based on education level, maybe you get a different result, meaning that now you can reject the null hypothesis. In other words, there is a difference in the mean. So what you can say is that faktor B tak ada perbezaan when it comes to education, but maybe faktor C ada perbezaan, there is a difference. So you can provide maybe some story lah, some reasoning why when you kenapa ada faktor yang ada perbezaan, ada faktor yang tak ada perbezaan when it comes to education level. Maybe there is some theory or support from past study. Okay, that one we will discuss on next Monday. How are you going to proceed with chapter number 4? Okay, because this time around, this week, the focus is just to apply the ANOVA testing and also the t-test. Okay, but whatever that you do in your analysis, okay, you need to present the findings in your chapter 4. And chapter 4 is not only about showing a nice table and just say whether it's significant or not significant. Okay, but in academic writing, you need to provide justification or reasoning lah. Why is it not significant? Okay, whether your findings, is it the same as past study based on the previous literature? Okay, that is the purpose of chapter 2. When you write your chapter 2, the purpose of chapter 2 is to provide some support, okay, or reasons, evidence. When you write your chapter number 4, whatever is the findings of your chapter number 4, you must provide some reasoning lah, justification based on what other people has done on similar issue. Okay, if you are doing, let's say, on the cost of living, for example, so you need to find similar topics on similar thesis, similar journals on similar issue, cost of living. Okay, looking at the same factor as what you are doing in your thesis, and see whether the findings that you get for your chapter 4 is it the same or is it opposite what other people has found. So if it's the same, you can just mention that this finding is similar to Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C. If it is not the same, you need to mention it is opposite what other people has found. And you need to provide the reasoning for it lah. Okay, what is the reason? Maybe in terms of theory, maybe in terms of your own observation based on what is happening now because of COVID-19, for example. So whatever it is, you need to provide the reasoning lah, not just mention for this factor we cannot reject. Next, this factor we can reject, to stop. Okay, so then your writing becomes like almost meaningless. Okay, meaningless means we want to see the reason. Okay, because academic writing is all about linking your findings with the theory, linking your findings with past studies. Okay, when you write chapter 2, the purpose of chapter 2 is to help you to provide justification or support when you write your chapter 4. So that is the reason why you need to read what other people has done. Okay, and how these articles, these theses can help you provide the reasoning or justification in chapter number 4 lah. Okay, so I will show you some example how to provide this justification, okay, on next week lecture. Okay, so hopefully we can finish our syllabus early so that you have more time to prepare for your final report and also your video presentation. Okay, because once we finish on chapter number 4, we only have one more chapter to go, which is on the conclusion. What do you need to write for conclusion? Okay, so I think next week we can focus on the chapter 4. Okay, how do you need to present your table? Okay, the choice of table size. Okay, the figure. How do you need to present your figure? Okay, because academic writing, you cannot simply create a very fancy, colorful tables. Okay, for video presentation, for PowerPoint, yes, you can use colorful figures and tables. Okay, but when it comes to report, your own project, your own thesis in your Word file, okay, it must be a simple, simple but benda yang biasa orang pakai lah. The format is similar to what you normally see in journal or thesis. Okay, you cannot use format or bentuk rajah or table which is too colorful, okay, terlampau fancy. So we do not want that. So I will show you some thesis, some journals, how you can actually use this as example, what I expect to see, okay, in your chapter number 4. So again, at the end of the day, the evaluation criteria is not just about you get the result significant or not, okay, but how you actually present your findings, how you actually justify your findings. Okay, so there are things, ada benda yang based on formatting, cosmetic, okay, how nice your figures are, how the margin, the placement of your table, the title, everything, and okay, your project will also be evaluated okay, akan dinilai based on how you justify, okay, memberikan reasoning, why is it significant, what is the meaning of your result, and so forth lah. Okay, so I think you can have several ANOVA testing depending on how many Likert scale sections you have. If you got three Likert scale sections, B, C, and D, so you can have similar analysis, meaning that you can analyze your ANOVA. Okay, let's say all the three sections, section B, section C, and section D. Okay, you can group them based on, let's say, 2 or 3 factors. Okay, one analysis you want to do based on education level. Okay, for all section B, C, and D, you use education level. And then section B, C, and D, you want to group another ANOVA, let's say, based on, for example, academic grouping ke, based on colleges ke, based on CGPA. Okay, as long as when you do that, you can have you can relate back to your research question and the objective of your study, and also provide justification. What is the meaning? Why do you choose this grouping? Okay, and how actually it relates to the theory, for example. Okay, help you to answer your research objective and also your research question. So maybe you can have 2 ANOVA per section. Okay, like section B, you can have one on taraf pendidikan or education, and the other one, I mean, I'm just looking at from this particular example. So your own questionnaire, okay, maybe you group based on CGPA, based on colleges or programs, okay, and you can also group based on other things lah. So you need to maybe choose at least two lah, okay, 2 different groupings for your ANOVA, okay, for each of the factor, and you can have the same factor lah for all different sections, section B, C, and D, and E. Then you can compare lah, okay. Maybe for the same factor, section B is not significant, but section C and D is significant. Then you need to explain why lah. What is the possibility? Kenapa B ni tak significant for taraf pendidikan, okay, but section C and D is significant for the same factor. Okay, so maybe ada faktor yang mana faktor grouping by education level has more ada memberi lebih kesan lah. Okay, it's more important than let's say another factor when you group by taraf pendidikan. So again, okay, when you read thesis or journals, look at how other people present their ANOVA or F-test result, okay, and then you can get more idea how to present your own findings lah. Okay, so what I've shown here, this today and also last Monday, okay, is to help you to answer all of your 3 research questions. So even though you have 3 research questions, but does not mean that you only need to have 3 simple analysis. Maybe that what I mean is that you can have 3 or 4 analysis or 3 or 4 testing for each of the research question, except for research question 1 lah. RQ1 or research question 1, there is no ANOVA or t-test, because what is required is just, okay, simple cross tabulation, okay, simple cross tabulation, where you can use this one, cross tabulation, or you can use just the descriptive or frequency, okay, pie chart, histogram. And you can also go for this correlate based on bivariate, meaning that you can use Pearson correlation. You can correlate, you can see the correlation between variables. Okay, you can check on YouTube how to actually interpret correlation. This is very simple, and many of the thesis in the Google Drive, they have many of the thesis also did or present correlation output. Okay, so check on that. You can include correlation as part of your analysis for research question number 1. Okay, for RQ1, when you want to present your demographic characteristics, you can also use the correlation output, okay, to explain the correlation among the variables. And usually for correlation test, these variables are only suitable for skills question. Skill meaning that data that you get directly the value. For example, CGPA or income value or age, for example. Okay, so but whatever it is, go and check on YouTube. Okay, you can find how to interpret correlation analysis in SPSS, how to do correlation analysis in SPSS. Okay, so there are many YouTube videos where you can see, okay, how to use correlation. Okay, correlate by variate. Yeah, you choose Pearson. Okay, so you cannot simply add variables here. For example, by gender, for example, and status. Of course, whatever that you click, okay, SPSS will provide the findings for you. But actually, it's not that direct how you actually interpret this, because when you correlate gender and status, you get 0.136. Okay, so meaning that okay, gender and marital status is positively correlated but very low correlation. But you cannot really know whether this gender is it based on male or female. Okay, so usually you can, but if you know how to interpret this, okay, so you need to check on thesis, because I'm not really into my own work, my own research. I don't really use primary data. Okay, my work mostly evolve around using secondary data, using regression. So I'm not really an expert when it comes to using primary data. So if you want to know how to do correlation tests using questionnaire data, okay, so you can check on YouTube or any other materials on the internet, okay, or any on or the textbook that I provided you the earlier this semester. So you can see, because this can be added into your analysis as well. Okay, so the more analysis or the more tests that you can provide in your project, okay, as long as it helps you to answer your research questions, okay, please go ahead, okay, because it will help you to improve or get more marks lah in terms of the variety of tests, okay, that you can provide, okay, not just the t-test and the ANOVA test which I showed you, okay. So you can have one or two correlation tests as part of your solution for RQ1, research question 1, but how to do it, how to interpret, okay, that is your task to find out, okay, because there are many things that you can learn on your own. Okay, so my role is just to provide you with the because this is not because you learn correlation in other subject, okay, and you can do this correlation in SPSS. Okay, so how to interpret, okay, you can dig, okay, you can try to find out yourself lah. Okay, you are working in a group, so you can discuss among your group members how to do this correctly and how to interpret the output correctly as well. Okay, so I'm sure there are plenty of YouTube videos where you can